Yeah, I had a funny conversation on air last Friday with a very good mate of mine, Charles Tarby, who rang in because he was upset that I said drivers aged 70 and over should have an S plate for seniors. And he rang in because Charles has just turned 70 and he gave me a gobful. It was very funny. And then we got talking about the Reserve Bank leaving interest rates on hold. And I said, well, how about we have a chat on Monday? We look at the CoreLogic, Tim Lawless CoreLogic figures over the weekend, have a look at what the auction results are and see if that's had any effect. Interest rates staying where they are. And then he texts me on Saturday and says, oh, mate, I'm going to China. I forgot. But very, very generously, Peter O'Malley from Harris Partners Real Estate is joining us because I really want to hear these figures. Peter, thank you so much.
Pleasure, Luke. How are you?
Yeah, bloody Tarby.
Well, if you meet Charles, you wouldn't pick him for 70, I'll say that.
I know him very well. I know him very well. And his wife's 30. And he's just had two young children, two brand new children.
That's right. No stopping Charles, rest assured.
No stopping him. But Peter, Harris Partners Real Estate, really appreciate this. So look, I know winter traditionally isn't a great time for auctions. People don't want to stand in the driveway of a house if it's raining and windy and cold. But I just thought it'd be interesting to have a look at what happened last weekend with the Reserve Bank making that decision. What are your thoughts on all of this?
I thought it was a pretty decent result for the weekend, Luke. The Reserve Bank's decision did disappoint. There's no doubt about that, but I think there is an expectation that we'll get that rate cut on August 12. The thing that's powering the market at the moment, or supporting it if you like, is a complete lack of stock. As you say, the weather has not been the best, and winter is traditionally a very low season for stock levels, and in turn that creates artificial strength because there's the same amount of buyers competing for less homes. So Domain had their preliminary clearance rate at 76% in Sydney last weekend, and on the same weekend last year it was at 62%. So I think it was a good weekend overall.
It was. Have you got the figures there? What about units?
It doesn't give us a breakdown on units, but units, generally speaking, are underperforming houses. The unit sector has been battered over the last few years about many of the high-profile building issues and strata issues impacting the modern high-rises. So you're always going to get a lower reading in Sydney on apartments than what you are on housing.
What's the rental Sydney market like at the moment? Is it still impossible? I saw... This is just for example. I saw on a website just on the weekend a rental property at Avalon, Sydney's Northern Beaches.
Yes. A
granny flat studio. It wasn't anything flash. It was furnished with a bed and a few things. $690 a week.
Yeah, I'd believe it. Yeah.
$690 a week.
Look, there is no respite coming in the rental crisis, unfortunately. The immigration policy is way too loose, and we're just not building. We're not even close to building the sort of supply in this city that's required. So as hard as it is for tenants to hear, the rental crisis will go on for years yet, Luke. And that's characterised by the rental market is usually fairly soft in winter, and this winter has been very strong from a seasonal perspective in winter, as we're still getting queues turning up to rental open houses, which rarely happens in winter. The big queues that you see the media often promoting is usually at the beginning of the calendar year when people are resetting themselves for the forthcoming year. Winter's a dead spot for the rental market, but this year has been surprisingly strong.
So you're saying, listen, just curb immigration until we have housing under control, because one of the first things you said with me this afternoon was there's a lack of stock.
There's a lack of stock, and you either need to bring more product to market quicker or curb immigration, as you say.
But also, we have a lack of tradies. Not enough young Australians want to become apprentices, and building materials, the cost has gone way high too.
All of that is contributing to the lack of, new supply coming to market. I've only had developers telling me today building costs are cruelling them. They can get the trades, notwithstanding that major government infrastructure projects are absorbing a lot of the trades in the marketplace. They can get tradies that are prepared to do the work for them, but labour costs and building costs have skyrocketed, making the projects unfeasible. And until the government work out an incentive that makes developers want to build, and we're going to continue to have these issues, Luke.
Yeah, all right. So not a bad weekend considering it's winter. It was sunny, but lack of stock. And
look, I think you'll continue to see a very strong market going forward from here. I don't see any downside for the property market from this point because of the immigration policy, the lack of stock, and the cost of money is coming down. I think we need to have the question, is the property market and the prices of what it takes to buy a house in Sydney, is it too high for our own good?
Yeah, interesting stuff. Hey, listen, you've been great. Thank you, Peter O'Malley.
All the best, Luke. Thank you.
Peter O'Malley from Harris Partners Real Estate.